I'm not the program facilitator. Our program facilitator is busy with an interview, so we've decided to make up time and not to keep you waiting. We're going to move on with a few other items around the program. So I'll get started by doing a short presentation which presents an overview. You will still get the official welcome once Ishmael Mkabela comes in and takes over. What I'm going to do in just a couple of minutes is to do a presentation on how we really got here. And this is really a bit of a timeline presentation on how events unfolded and what brought us to this summit here today. So, if we were to go back, this was really the trigger that got a conversation going about what is really happening in the city of Johannesburg. It was the changes, the repeated changes of leadership that got people asking the question, but what is really going on? Do we understand what is happening? Is this instability, is it politics playing itself? All sorts of questions emerged. And so this trigger then got just a group of people together who are concerned about concerned citizens, few academics, and the startling statistic was that we had 4 mayors in 18 months and several changes in the office of the speaker, and all of these have been impacting on the way the citizens have been interacting with the city. So even the project that I'm involved in called Action for Accountability, we had a meeting with the speaker, the Gama, and we had agreed on a range of things, and all of those things fell apart once the changes came, and we've never been able to reactivate that. So that was the experience. And then on the 21st of June, a small group of individuals put their heads together and asked the AKF to convene a summit. Now, I know we're using the word summit a bit loosely. We even calling this a summit, which I guess by definition is not quite. But let's, for the purposes of continuity, let's call it a summit. And then the first summit was convened at Menkosa on the 7th of July. And this was really a session where many civil society organizations came to come and express themselves on how are citizens experiencing the city? What is their day-to-day experience? By the way, all these summit reports are available. If you want to read the detail, please feel free to talk to us. We can get you those reports, because they make interesting reading about how these issues seem to have just gone from summit to summit. And so it was really on the 7th of July that the AKF convened. There was a presentation on the financial status of the city. Again, to understand the finances of the city does require a bit of expertise. And we were open to the question that, do we have the right data? Are we analyzing the data correctly? And till today, we remain open to those conversations. At that summit, there were breakaway groups. We didn't know how to divide the rooms, so we went with those in the north, those in the south, and then we captured all the feedback. And three things that came out of that first one was the need for active citizenry, establishing a citywide network, and responding to the early warnings of the impending water crisis. So even at that stage, there were already early signals that there's something happening with the water issue, with the water supply, and with water security and with water quality that we need to keep an eye on. Out of that meeting, the call was put out. So who's going to step up and help to pull this together? And these are the organizations that stepped up. These are the organizations that came forward and said, we're happy to give whatever support we can and to act as conveners of this. But the word Crisis Alliance hadn't emerged at this point. So it was really these organizations that stepped up and said, yes, we're happy to put support to this initiative. And then there were events which really shook the citizens. The Bree Street explosion, I mean, it really got people worried. That, you're walking down the street, can this happen? Are we safe? Can we even walk in the city? And compounded by the Joburg fire. And that really was the sentiment that drove us to the next summit, that there are serious concerns about what's happening. Which brought us to the 7th of October and to this very room, where we then convened again. And at the second summit, some of the things that emerged was, one, that we really do need to write the president, because Joburg is just too valuable and too important to the country. It is the welfare of this city is of national importance, and we need to accord it that level of attention. And so we wrote to the president. Shortly thereafter, during a Q&A session in Parliament, the Deputy President responded to questions about the city, and we were encouraged that there was an indication that there was going to be an intervention from the presidency. Safe to say, we haven't formally heard anything yet, even after we wrote a follow-up letter, so we're still waiting. And at the same time, the water crisis just seemed to be escalating. I'm going to leave out the details on the water crisis because that's an agenda item. On the 11th of November, I really want to flag this particular session that we had at Constitution Hill. Because what you see there is perhaps one of the best models for resolving problems. What you have there is a representative of the National Department, a representative of Rand Water, and a representative of Joburg Water. And it was one of those sessions where you got solid answers. Pharaoh is going to talk about this, about the importance of these kind of sessions. And we really want to urge our political leadership that are here, that this model is an important model. If the city drops out, you end up with a session where you pass the issues around and nobody has an answer. But if you have everybody in the same room, and this was really a remarkable session that we want to replicate. We then went on to the 25th of November, where we met in Mayfair, and the question about how do we fix the city emerged. There was a request by the DA for a meeting, and so the meeting debated about the question of should we engage or should we just do what we do, and that is organized protest. And that was a very interesting debate. And the room was divided. There were many that felt, look, you're wasting your time. Let's just continue with our protests, work, get media attention. And the outcome is that you end up talking to your leadership through the media, which is not the healthiest way of interacting. Right? But there was also a view in the room that, we have a common objective, and that is the welfare and the well-being of the city. And I think we should engage. So with that mandate in hand, there was a mandate that we invite our political leaders to the Joburg Crisis Alliance. By now, the name Joburg Crisis Alliance had emerged from Summit number 2, which is really why we have the leadership here today. It was that mandate that was given to us on the 21st of November, which, and the debate about protest versus engagement. It's, I suppose that civil society organizations, you'll never give up your protest activities. But the balance between protest and engagement is the one that needs to be healthy. And it can't be that it's only protest. And it can't be where there's only engagement, but you don't take the people along with you, especially when it's to ventilate their issues in their communities. So it was really in fulfilling that mandate that we had pulled together, this is a representation of all the many, many issues, and you can read all the detailed reports, but there were so many issues that emerged over the course of those 3 summits. And we were quite sure that we didn't want summit number 4, which is today, to be just a repeat of repeating what we had heard in 3 summits, that we really needed to step up. And the step up that we agreed on is that we need to have this engagement with our political leadership. The JCA then convened a strategic workshop on the 25th of November, and that strategy has been circulated to everybody. You've had a chance to look at it, and at the end, we're going to find a way to confirm that as the strategy with which we're going to move forward. For the first time, there was public visibility on the work of the Joburg Crisis Alliance. We participated in the Human Rights Festival on the 24th of March. We were also joined by the Joburg Heritage Foundation, who are really campaigning hard for the reopening of the Joburg Library. Something that we feel very passionately about. Early morning, there's another protest that is being organized around the Joburg Library, and an important one. In the meantime, while all of this is unfolding, the water crisis keeps escalating, and that is why we decided we have to include this item on the agenda for today. And that brings us here today, right, to this summit. There's going to be a wonderful panel discussion that's going to cover 3 areas around the coalition instability, the response of the parties to the suggestions that we made to the president, and then how do political parties want to work with civil society. We can't guess. Let's talk. What is that engagement supposed to look like? So please note that the JCA is an emerging alliance. You know, we're not a solid structure with a leadership. It's still just people who are passionate about the city, and so it's an emerging alliance, and we don't know where it's going to go to. It's a network of partners which is expanding daily. Every day we meet people, and we draw them in and get their support, but also the skills that they can bring. And I guess in the medium to long term, what will success look like for this crisis alliance? You know, and I think a good way of putting it is that, you know, the word crisis here, if we can drop that, get out of crisis mode and be just a Johannesburg Civic Alliance. When we have a stable, structured relationship, that's where we need to be, and that's where we need to get to. And I really just want to end my bit with this slide here, because in the course of this work, all since July, we've been interacting with people. And everywhere, people express a deep love for the city. You know, you sit down and there's frustration, but at the heart of it, there's still this deep love for the city. It's their home, the place of work. It's where they conduct their leisure activities. It's where they get married. It's where they die, where they get married. There is a deep love for the city. And that is really what binds us and what brings you here. It's what brings this political leadership here. Because there is still a love for the city. You know, we met some people in Melbourne who go about daily fixing things, potholes, cutting grass, and it's driven from a love for the neighborhood. We met Julieta sitting over there, myself and Ferio. Julieta is a former co-editor of Financial News, and Julieta was talking to us about property value, right? You know, a hardcore financial discussion about property value. But that conversation, you know, she still said, no, I love the city, you've got to fix it, you've got to make it work. So I'm hoping that it is really this that gives the platform for a constructive engagement here. I have no doubt that these politicians love the city as much as we do and as much as you do. So that's really what binds us. Thank you very much. I'm going to now hand over to the real program facilitator, Ishmael Makabela. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether you love politicians.
They don't love us.
Yes, we recognize them. There's nothing about love. If it's love, if you are married, go to your wife. If you have a girlfriend, a boyfriend, that's where you go. These guys, we owe them no love, but recognition. And we're happy that you are here. We invited 4 political parties. Eunice, where's the 4th one?
I don't know if Action SA is in the room.
Action SA is not here.
They had confirmed up to this moment.
Is that respect for us?
No. We can always ask that question. The EFF didn't respond, so there are 2 political parties.
I'm asking, citizens, is that respect for us?
No.
And some of you, because you love your leaders and politicians, you treat them with love they don't deserve. Thanks very much. Today we're not here to fight, it's constructive engagement. But hey, we like fight. One story or 2. Why am I here? I made a decision in the 80s that I'll never be a politician and